الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم كتب عليكم إذا حضر أحدكم الموت إن ترك خيرا الوصية للوالدين والأقربين بالمعروف حقا على المتقين. It is enjoined upon you when death approaches any one of you and he leaves some wealth to bequeath for the parents and the nearest of kin in the reasonable and approved manner. This being an obligation on the God-fearing. فَمَنْ بَدَّلَهُ بَعْدَمَا سَمِعَهُ فَإِنَّمَا إِثْمُهُ عَلَى الَّذِينَ يُبَدِّلُونَهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. Then whosoever changes it, meaning that bequest and will, after he has heard it, then its sin will only be on those who change it. فَمَنْ خَافَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. Surely Allah is all hearing, all knowing. فَمَنْ خَافَ مِن مُوصٍ جَنَفًا أَوْ إِثْمًا فَأَصْلَحَ بَيْنَهُمْ فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. But whoever apprehends, fears partiality or sin from the testator and puts things right between them, then there is no sin upon him. Verily, Allah is most forgiving, most merciful. In the previous verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the hukm of qisas. If you remember, we read ayatul bir, ayat of virtue. And after that, the details of that ayatul bir are now mentioned. And the first matter which Allah mentioned was regarding blood. And now second matter is regarding money. This shows that blood matters are more important than monetary matters. If someone murders another person, we mentioned that there is qisas. Kutiba alaykumul qisasu fil qatla. It is incumbent, it is necessary to take qisas. Capital punishment is necessary to be carried out. There is no escape from it. People sometimes dislike qisas. They refer to it as injustice. Hazrat Mufti Ashiq Ilahi Balan Shahri Rahmatullahi Ali writes in Anwarul Bayan, page 354, enforcing the law of qisas saves many lives, since people will refrain from killing each other. For this reason, qisas is a life-giving source. Many ignorant people refer to qisas as an injustice. Such people do not understand the meaning of injustice. The unjust person is he who purposely murdered another person without any reason. Taking life of the murderer in lieu of the murder is the epitome of justice. Hazrat goes on to say, referring to this qisas as injustice and oppression stems from ignorance and foolishness. Some people maintain that the murderer should not be killed, but rather put into jail. They do not understand that this only gives the murderer more courage to continue. The murderer thinks that he can continue killing and spend but a little while in jail. Those whose very nature is to kill, rob, and plunder are not in the least afraid of jails. They easily escape from such prisons. Only those people who have no value for human life will dislike qisas. They choose to sympathize with the murderer rather than the rest of mankind. Sunan Abu Dawud contains the tradition stating that qisas will be enforced upon the person who intentionally murders another. The curse of Allah, His angels, and the entire mankind will be upon the person who wishes to oppose the enforcement on qisas and tries to become a barrier between the murderer and the qisas. Allah's curse will go on such people who stop any hudud from the hudud of Allah being carried out on a person. So Allah explained that qisas is necessary. If you implement and enforce this qisas ruling under the Islamic law with proper thorough investigation, proper judicial process, after the everything is established, and then you carry out the qisas, then this will eradicate murders from the community and it will bring peace and justice. This is what Allah said, in qisas there is life. If you take qisas everywhere ruling, you will save lives of many. You see, these are divine rules, not man-made. And Allah knows the feeling of the one who is wronged. Those who make up rules on tables, no one from their family has ever been murdered or robbed or raped. So they will be lenient with the criminals. But Allah knows the feelings of those who are murdered, the feelings of their families, and the feelings of those who are robbed, and those who are raped, and other crimes are committed against them. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is strict in hudud and punishments. So, we hear, for example, I read one in the newspaper, this lady's house was burgled, everything was robbed, and when she came back, she saw on her wedding ring and her gold and money and everything was gone, and the whole house was ransacked. And when reporters came to interview, she said, if I had my way, I would chop their hands off. Now, what is this? That's the natural way of thought, because they stole and robbed with their hands. That's why she was saying, if I were my way, she doesn't know what Quran says. That was sariqu was sariqatu faqta'u aydiyahuma. Now, similar is the case of where people are murdered. We don't understand the feeling. If someone dies in our family, how do we feel? Now imagine if someone is killed. How would your feelings be regarding the murderer, the criminal? So Allah knows their feelings. That's why Allah said qisas is incumbent upon you. So there are wisdoms behind qisas. Another point is, over here Allah only talked about qisas of life for life. But in the verse of Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah said that famous statement, an eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. Now, in limbs as well, if someone pokes someone's eye and blinds him, then that criminal's eye should be poked and he should be made blind as well with the one eye. If he chopped off his nose should be chopped off. He chopped off the ear, his ear should be chopped off. If he cut a finger, his finger should be cut off. If he cut off a foot, his foot should be cut off. This is qisas in the limbs of the body. وَكَتَبْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ فِيهَا أَنَّ النَّفْسَ بِالنَّفْسِ وَالْعَيْنَ بِالْعَيْنِ وَالْأَنْفَ بِالْأَنْفِ وَالْأُذُنَ بِالْأُذُنِ وَالسِّنَّ بِالسِّنِّ, tooth for a tooth. وَالْجُرُوحَ قِصَاص. There are laws of qisas in other injuries as well. If there is injury in the brain, someone put a knife, similar injury will be inflicted on the person. Injury in the wound, the flesh was cut off and the bone was visible, similar injury will be inflicted on them. So there is qisas. Qisas means equality. The person who committed the crime should be made equal to the victim. This is not only in Quran. Allah said, وَكَتَبْنَا عَلَيْهِمْ فِيهَا. It is written in Torah as well. Torah, exact same words in Torah. أن النفس بالنفس والعين بالعين والأنف بالأنف والأذن بالأذن والسن بالسن والجروح قصاص. So this is the ruling. Then, as I explained last week, if you remember, the, the decision will not be made by the qazi, the judge, or the governor, or the king, or the ruler, or the sultan, or the khalifa. Final decision will lay in the hands of the family. If the family want qisas, retaliation, they can take it. If they want to opt for money and take blood money, then there's blood money. For life, we mentioned 100 camels, or its equivalent in money, or whatever is agreed upon. Sometimes compensation is agreed upon less or more. Sometimes they want double compensation, 3 times more, sometimes 10 times more. So they will have to give that compensation, even whatever is asked for. If you agree with it, you'll have to give it, otherwise, we'll take the life. Similarly, there is compensation for the limbs as well. For one eye, because one eye is 50% of the vision. So if you poke one eye, your eye should be poked and you should be made blind. But if you want to give compensation, then 50 camels. For both eyes, 100 camels. For one finger chopping off, 10 camels. 5 fingers, 50 camels. 10 fingers, both hands, 100 camels. One hand, 50 camels. Both hands chopped off, 100 camels. And in this way, Shariat has made laws for, where the benefit of that limb is taken into equation. And however much benefit there was, that is the amount of compensation which will be given. Today as well, where people work in factories or butchers or other places, if some finger is cut, hand is cut, then they are given compensation. And the law of the land says that the company has to pay for them for the rest of their lives. If that is law of the land, then we abide by the law of the land. So compensation can be given where the family pardon, and this is what faman ufiya lahu min akhihi shay'un. Akhihi yani akhihi al-Muslim, not real brother. Where the Muslim brother, Allah used the word akhihi in order to create compassion into the hearts of the family of the murdered person, the victim. That you should feel if he has done wrong by mistake, he didn't want to, but he was overpowered by anger, or something happened, like the story I mentioned. They were both cutting wood, and he hit the axe on the head of the other person because he got angry. So Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, urged the other person to let him off, and he let him off without any compensation, freely. So it's up to the family. If they want to let off and take money, they can take money. And if they want to let off without money and just say, okay, I forgive you, mafi. This is what Allah said, فَمَنْ تَصَدَّقَ بِهِ فَهُوَ كَفَّارَةٌ لَهُ. Whoever is charitable with it, then that is kafara for him. Allah called letting the other person off charity. This is sadaqah. If you let the murderer off, or the criminal who injured you, if you let them off and mafi and forgive them. Sometimes it happens in accidents as well. Once someone hit me from behind because I turned from the giveaway and I was about to turn right. So the other person just didn't look. He just kept on. He turned left behind me and bumped into me. He was Muslim. He comes out and says, "Marza, sorry, maaf karjo, sorry, maaf karjo. Tamar ji ke undi diya. Allah bhai tamar bumper todi kai ro light phodi kai. Marza mutamar ji ke di diya." गया भाग गया भूल गया तो खुद ही हमको रिपेयर करना पड़ा जा यार माफ कर दिया तुझको. So if you let someone off, then that will be a sadaqah on your behalf, whether it's qisas or whether it's injury. You say chal maaf kar di, tu jane diya. So Allah said faman tasaddaqa bihi fahuwa kaffaratul lah. This being charitable and letting off will be kafara for you. And this used to happen in the Arabian lands, but now the Arabs have become greedy as well. Long time ago, on one place, these two Arabs bumped into one another, accident. They both came out of the car and they both knew one another. They started hugging one another. चलो यार हो गया उससे मेरी सब मिस्टेक जाओ you repair your car, repair my car. वो माफ कर दिया, जिसकी मिस्टेक थी उसने उसको माफ कर दिया. तो ये this is sadqa, just giving up, चलो हो गया. But today we have a compensation culture which has come in from Big Brother. So everybody is looking out compensation. कहाँ पे यहाँ मिले? Greed has crept in. So Allah Pak said, فَمَنْ تَصَدَّقَ بِهِ. If you were injured, something happened, let them off, forget it. فَهُوَ كَفَّارَةٌ لَهُ. Over here as well, فَمَنْ عُفِيَ لَهُ مِنْ أَخِيهِ شَيْءٌ فَاتِّبَاعٌ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَأَدَاءٌ إِلَيْهِ بِإِحْسَانٍ ذَلِكَ تَخْفِيفٌ مِّن رَبِّكُمْ وَرَحْمَةٌ فَمَنْ اعْتَدَى بَعْدَ ذَلِكَ فَلَهُ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. These were some of the matters with regards to the qisas. Now, after the ayat of birr, we are moving on to the second instruction about wasiyat, which is connected to mal, property, wealth. Tafseer Nasafi states that the first hukam was hukmu mautin makhsusin wa hadha hukmu kulli mautin. The first was about special death where a person is murdered. This hukam is about every person's death. And perhaps it's because you never know when you're going to die, what's going to happen, some accident, sudden death. Therefore, you need to keep your wasiyat and will ready, prepared. If your wasiyat is ready, then your family, your offspring, your children, your family, your heirs, inheritors, warithin will have easy time. If there's no wasiyat, there will be a huge struggle. They'll have to run around solicitors, bank, sort everything out, and they will be, they will spend months, maybe, or maybe a year or so in getting everything putting in place. But if you have wasiyat, you just use that wasiyat, that will nama, and everything will be made easy for them. So, in this country, wasiyat is also extremely important. Over here, Allah is talking about that wasiyat. كتب عليكم إذا حضر أحدكم الموت إن ترك خيرا الوصية للوالدين والأقربين بالمعروف حقا على المتقين. Hazrat Mufti Shafi Sahib Rahmatullah Alayhi writes that literally al-wasiyah means to order, an order to do something, whether during lifetime or after death. Both wasiyat is used for both terms. However, in commonly accepted usage, it refers to what must be done after death. It can be translated as will or bequest. So this is the literal meaning of wasiyat. Hazrat Shaykh Zakaria Rahmatullah Alayhi writes that wasiyat in Shariat means ahdun khasun mudafun ila ma ba'da al-maut. A special instruction which is connected to death, ma ba'da al-maut, after death. Qastallani Rahmatullah Alayhi says that shar'an tabarru'un bihaqqin mudafin ila ma ba'da al-maut. A special tabarru' and charity which is connected to the person's death and whatever is after death. Hidayah said, tamlikun muzafun ilama ba'dal maut. Making someone malik of something after your death is called wasiyat. Whether it's of money, property, land, building, house, business, you make someone owner of something after your death is called wasiyat. This is Shari meaning, a little bit of explanation of the meaning. Ibn Abidin Rahmatullah Alayhi Shami writes in Fatawa Shamiya that wasiyat is of 4 types. Number 1, wajib, like wasiyat of Raddul Wada'i' wa Duyun, returning some amanat which has been deposited to you, or paying off some debts which you owe, or paying for something which you had bought but you have not paid yet, you owe that money, Whatever you owe to people, whether because of borrowing or buying, purchasing, or amanat, holding on to someone's amanat, you only you know these things. Nobody else knows. So you have to write in your wasiyat nama that so much qarz is on me, so much debt is on me. This is what I owe to so and so person. I bought and purchased and this and this. And so someone came, this amanat left with me because my house, because in the olden days, they were never had banks. So rich people had large mansions, palaces, and they had safe, secure. So poor people used to keep, bags with a name on there and amanat with them, gold coins, silver coins. So the person had to keep a list of everything and return all that money to the rightful owners. And our elders were very particular about this. My beloved father, Rahmatullahi alayhi, told me that when my grandfather had suffered a stroke, my father left his work, imamat, and came to Umarwada, stayed with him for some days. So my grandfather told him to bring that register. And he had some money from South Africa for scholarships. And he had kept the hisab of every penny and whatever was left. So he told my father, look at that register, look at all that hisab, and whatever is there, you have to inform the rightful owners and give them all these hisab properly of every rupiah and every paisa. This is how clean our elders were and how clean their hisab was. And he died after a few days, and Walid Sahib looked after all the hisab. Whatever money was there, he wrote to those from South Africa who had sent that scholarship money, how much my father had used on the students of madrasa and school and wherever. He had built a madrasa in our village, and how much he'd spent on there and everything. Every hisab was clear. So this returning all the amanats which were deposited to you, this writing a wasiyat instruction for this is wajib, because you're the only one who knows. You have to write that. Similarly, if there is some faraiz due on you, like hajj, you've not performed your fard hajj, or you've missed some namazes, or you missed some rozas, or some other zakat which you've not paid, you have to write that in the will, that I am elderly now on my deathbed. I should have gone for Hajj many years ago. I didn't. It was farz on me. So do my Hajj badal. And zakat, I missed so much, paid off for me. Kafarat, so much kafara was wajib on me and I did not pay it off. So give that kafara for me. Sadqa fitr, any sadqa which was wajib, you have to write all that in the will, that pay these off for me. So this is the first type of wasiyat which is wajib. Number two, Hazrat says wasiyat mustahab. I'm sorry, I mentioned this in the example of wajib. Ibn Abidin Shami has said this is in the mustahab part. Wasiyat mustahab of kafarat and fidyatus salat wa ghayra. The wasiyat for that is mustahab, not wajib. Mustahab. And number three is mubah. Mubah is wasiyat for someone who is well off, but he is a distant relative. That's jaiz. Or even if he is distant but stranger, not relative, you make wasiyat for them. This is, Ibn Abidin Shami says, mubah, meaning halal, jaiz. And number four, wasiyat is makruh. This is making wasiyat for fusaq, ahlul ma'asi. You know that he's going to spend on haram stuff, then don't make wasiyat for them. It will be makruh to do wasiyat for them. So four types: wajib, wasiyat of returning the amanats and paying off the debts and loans is wajib. Mustahab, wasiyat of any kafara or fidyatus salat wa nahwiha, mustahab. Mubah, making wasiyat for distant relatives who are not going to inherit, like cousins, nephews, nieces, or even not relatives but distant. Like, for example, for madrasa, for imam sahab, for alim, for sheikh, making some wasiyat for them is mubah. And makruh, making wasiyat for fusaq, fujjar, ahlul ma'asi. This Hazrat Shaykh Nawarallah who has mentioned in Sharh Bukhari from Ibn Abidin Shami. So this chapter is now talking about wasiyat, something which you, instruction which you leave after your death, and you want that to be carried out. Allah says over here, Kutiba alaykum idha hadara ahadakumul maut in taraka khayran al wasiyya. It is fixed upon you, enjoined upon you, that when death approaches one of you, meaning it is close, signs of death appear. For example, khatarnak bimari, illness, and you know that you're not going to survive this illness. And this is why, if someone is in that condition, many people hide it from them. It is the habit of the locals. We should make it clear to them in some way, soft way, nice way, clearly. The cancer has spread, it's stage 4. You're only here for a few days now, whether you like it or not. If you want to make some wasiyat, give some instructions, give them now, so the person can speak up his mind. Don't feel scared that he's going to get scared and freak out and this. But it's natural, it's going to happen. Everybody has to go from here. So it's better if he makes some wasiyat and does some tawbah, istighfar, does some zikr, fikr, kalma, iman, la ilaha illallah. Then maybe Allah can accept his tawbah, istighfar. He can go with, in a good condition. So either some asbab of maut are approaching and there is fear that he's going to die. This is إِذَا حَضَرَ أَحَدَكُمُ الْمَوْتِ إِن تَرَكَ خَيْرًا الْوَصِيَّةُ لِلْوَارِثِ إِن تَرَكَ خَيْرًا, if he is leaving behind khair. Khair literally means good. Now, good is used here for mal, wealth. Why? Because wealth in itself is something good. If we have money, we can live a good life, healthy life. We can buy good food, eat healthy food, wear nice clothes, have a nice house, have a nice car, relaxed life. So money in itself is good. Ni'imma bil mali salih lil rajul salih. Hadith says, excellent is good wealth for a good person. A pious person, muttaqi person is wealthy. Inna Allah yuhibbul abd al ghaniyya taqiyya al khafiyya, in the hadith of Muslim. Allah loves a person who is rich and who is taqi, muttaqi, parhezgar, and who is khafi, gumnam, down to earth, not famous. Allah loves that person who doesn't show his wealth by buying expensive Ferraris and Lamborghinis and whatever, showing off. No, he's down to earth person. He has modest car, Mercedes is all right, good, relaxing, mashallah, nice car. So you have a good car, no problem, good house, and good living, good food, good clothing. One Sahabi was seen wearing some torn clothes with disheveled hair and dust on him. So Nabi Pak Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam asked him, do you have some mal? And he said, of course I have lots of mal. I have dirham, dinar, goats, camels, this, that. He said, well then if you have mal, then wear some nice clothes, apply some oil on your head, shave, comb your hair, and look nicely, have a nice appearance. He said, إِذَا آتَاكَ اللَّهُ نِعْمَةً فَلْيُرَى أَثَرُ نِعْمَةِ اللَّهِ عَلَيْكَ. When Allah blesses you with some ni'mat, then the effects of that ni'mat should be visible on your body, on you. Show that, Alhamdulillah, Allah has blessed me. This is why Allah said, in taraka khayran, mal is a good thing. Mal in itself is not bad. Allah said, in taraka khayran, yani malan. Allah said in Surah Al-Adiyat, وَإِنَّهُ لِحُبِّ الْخَيْرِ لَشَدِيدٌ. Indeed, man is passionate in his love for khayr. Khair over there means wealth. That man, insan loves mal. Everybody loves money. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, mal in itself is a good thing. Take it as good, earn it in a halal way, a good way, spend it in a halal way, proper way, a good way, and you will get reward when you spend on your family, on your wife, on your children, on your parents, on your relatives, on your nephews, nieces, cousins, uncles, grandparents. You spend on them, you will get reward for that. And then you spend on the poor people, you get reward for that. On masajid, madaris, you help them. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, In taraka khayran, if you are leaving behind khair, then al-wasiyyatu lil walidaini, it is necessary upon you to make wasiyat for the parents and the relatives bil ma'ruf, in a reasonable manner. For the parents and relatives. Now, this hadith, this ayat karima was sent down in Surah Baqarah long before the verses of Surah Nisa. The second ruku of Surah Nisa, wherein Allah said, Yusikumullahu fi awladikum. Allah is giving you wasiyat and instruction regarding your children. Then Allah mentions who is going to get what shares. So, Ibn Kathir Rahmatullah Alayhi writes in his Tafseer that this ayat is mansukh, abrogated. Making wasiyat for parents and other relatives was wajib in the beginning for a period of time, maybe for a few years. And then Allah sent down Surah Nisa, so this verse was abrogated. كان ذلك واجبا قبل نزول آية المواريث فلما نزلت آية الفرائض نسخت هذه. This is why in one hadith Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, إن الله تعالى قد أعطى كل ذي حق حقه فلا وصية لوارث. Allah has given every warith and inheritor their fair share. So you cannot make wasiyat for a person who's already inheriting. Your father inherits you, your wife inherits you, your sons inherit you, your daughters inherit you. So you can't make a wasiyat for them now. It was allowed in the beginning when there were no instructions, no detailed shares allotted, fixed for everyone. So Allah said, make wasiyat. Allah kept it open. You can make as much wasiyat as you want for your father, your mother, your brother, your son, your daughter. But then Allah said, it's abrogated now. I am telling you what shares to give to whom. Ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu said, نسختها هذه الآية للرجال نصيب مما ترك الوالدان والأقربون وللنساء نصيب مما ترك الوالدان والأقربون مما قل منه أو كثر نصيبا مفروضا. Another opinion over here is that the ayat is mansukh with regards to those relatives who do inherit. But it's muhkam and still baqi for those relatives who do not inherit. Like I mentioned examples of cousins, nephews, nieces, or uncles who are not going to inherit because your close relatives are there, so distant relatives don't take anything. But because they did a lot of khidmat for you, then you can make wasiyat for them. That my grandson, well, grandson is a bit masla, because there might be some little bit of favoritism in there. Because your son is already going to inherit you. And if you give his son, then they will get more than the other sons. So there will be a bit of favoritism in giving to grandchildren. So when your children are inheriting, you should not give the grandchildren, because the grandchildren will benefit from the inheritance of their parents. So why leave inheritance for them? This is what Fuqaha have mentioned. But other relatives, let's say others who did your khidmat, or for example, someone was your carer. They used to come to you for many, many years. Though government paid them their wages, but they cared for you so nicely. They were so kind to you. So you want to give them something. So you make a wasiyat for them. Then this type of wasiyat is still permissible. It's allowed, as we mentioned. So this is the meaning of lil walidaini wal aqrabin. And bil ma'ruf, means in a reasonable manner. Now, over here, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, in taraka khayran al wasiyatu. How much wealth? Sayyiduna Ali ibn Abi Talib, karramallahu wajhahu, Sayyiduna ibn Abbas radiyallahu anhu, Sayyiduna Mujahid, rahmatullahi alayhi, say that it should be of a good proportion. Whether it should be a good amount. If it's a little bit, then leave it for your inheritors. Don't give it out in wasiyat. Sayyiduna Ali karramallahu wajhahu was once asked, there is this person who's dying and he wants to leave behind a wasiyat. Should he leave or not? He said, how much is he leaving behind? And they said, 300 dinars or 400. So Hazrat Ali said, nah, that's not too much. Tell him, don't make wasiyat. Leave it for your relatives who are going to inherit you. Similarly, another athar is narrated regarding Ummul Mu'mineen Aisha Siddiqa radiyallahu anha. She was asked a similar case and she said, how much is he leaving behind? And they said, about 3,000. And she asked, how many children does he leave behind? And they said, 4 children. So Mu'mineen Aisha radiyallahu anha said, this is very little. What is going to benefit the 4 children? Leave it for the 4 children. Don't make any wasiyat in there. This is taken from the hadith of Sayyiduna Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiyallahu anhu. He reports in Sahih Bukhari that at the time of Fath Makkah, we had conquered Makkah, we were in Makkah Sharif, and I fell ill. I thought I was going to die. So I said to Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who had come to visit me, I said, Ya Rasulullah, I think I'm going to die. And I have a lot of money and I only have one daughter. So should I give all my money away in sadaqah and khairat and charity? Nabi Kareem sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, no. Leave for your daughter. He said, shall I give 2/3 of my money in charity? Nope. 1/2? Nope. 1/3? So he replied, okay, you can give 1/3, but 1/3 is a lot as well. Leaving your children rich is better than leaving them poor, where they have to go out and stretch their hands in front of other people and beg from them. So your children deserve your money more than others. Leave it for them. إنك أن تذر ورثتك أغنياء خير لك من أن تذرهم عالة فقراء عالة يتكففون الناس. And then he prophesied, don't worry, you're not going to die in this illness. You will live and you will have more children and so many people will benefit from you and others will be harmed through you. So Hazrat Sa'd did survive. He lived. He had more children later on. And during the time of Sayyidina Umar radiyallahu anhu, he is the one who conquered Kisra and Iran and Persian and brought the Persian Empire to its knees. So the prophecy of Huzur sallallahu alayhi wasallam was fulfilled. So we learn from there that if it's not too much, then we should not make any wasiyat in there. It's only for those who are very wealthy. They can make wasiyat. Why is wasiyat allowed and how much wasiyat can a person make? Number one, when a person dies, we have to think of 3 things first. Number one, tajheez takfeen, kafan dafan. In England, life is very expensive and so is death. If you die in London, Bapre Bab Kaju Khali Thije. Bolton is a bit cheaper. London maybe 10,000-12,000. Bolton maybe 3,000-4,000. For grave, coffin, burial, fees, or this fee, that fee. So if a person only has 3,000-4,000, then all his money will be used for his tajheez takfeen burial process whatever purchase of land and coffin and everything. And this is why probably the other communities cremate, because cremation is cheaper. Second, if there is money left after his tajheez takfeen, then it should be used for duyun, ada'ud duyun. If he has any debts, then pay off debts. If his whole legacy is used in that debt, then so be it, because it's his money and his debt should be paid off first. So let's say if he left 100,000 behind, but he was 100,000 in debt, then all that money should be paid off in debt. Today, people don't do that. A person died and he had lots of debt on him, and the people came to his sons, and you know what they replied? They said, well, he left his debt behind, go to his qabr and get it from his qabr. But he will be questioned in the grave about debts. You should pay it off. He said, no, we're not going to pay it off. The money is ours. He's got properties, he's got houses. Sell those houses and pay the debt off. He said, we're not going to sell those houses. They're ours now. He had property in Dubai. We don't care. We'll have that property. We'll use that. 300,000-400,000 debts. And they were able to pay it off. They didn't pay it off. So this type of nalayak awlad could be there. Shariat said, no. If he's left some debts, then all his money, the second step should be used to pay off his debt. And then the third step, that if he has left any wasiyat, that should be carried out, but that should be carried out from 1/3 of his legacy. And 2/3 will be for the warithin, the heirs. So let's say he left behind 300,000 and he made wasiyat to give 200,000 somewhere. Then 200,000 will not be given, only 100,000 will be given. The 200,000 will be distributed among the heirs, unless the heirs, the warithin, were rich and they were all grown-ups. There was no nabaligh, minor among the inheritors, and they all say that our father made this wasiyat, we'll carry out that, we are well off, we've got our money, we don't need it, we'll take 100,000 and share it among us, the 200,000 can be given in wasiyat. That's another thing. But Shariat guideline is that wasiyat can only be carried out in 1/3 of the legacy. If he left 30,000, only 10,000 wasiyat, 20,000 should be given to the family members. This is why Huzur said that if you have less money, then don't make any wasiyat. Now, why is wasiyat allowed? Because man is naturally, falls in love with money, and he stays a bit stingy and greedy, and he doesn't want to spend. He doesn't want to spend in the path of Allah, and he struggles to spend in the path of Allah. Now, he might have fallen short during his lifetime, might have done something which he shouldn't have done. He might have laxed in giving sadaqah and charity and lillah and whatever donations. Now, at the time of death, he wants to give in the path of Allah. So Shariat can't outrightly say, no, you can't give a single penny. And Shariat will not say, yes, you can give everything you want. There needs to be a balance. That balance is created by Shariat, that, okay, if you had given all your wealth during your lifetime, when you were healthy, that would have been accepted. There are cases where Sahaba gave all their wealth during their lifetime. Like Hazrat Abu Bakr in Tabuk, he gave everything. So when you're healthy, you're able, you can give whatever you want. But when you're on your deathbed, you have to remember Marazul Wafat. When you've been told that it's stage 4 cancer, you're not going to survive. Or you've had an accident, fall, you had some brain hemorrhage or something, you're in and out of consciousness, and there is risk that you're going to go now. So in that state, you've approached that death. Then this is called Marazul Wafat. Then wasiyat in Marazul Wafat is only allowed in 1/3. So the reason why wasiyat is allowed is because sometimes people fall short in giving donations and sadaqah khairat, and this is their last chance to do some neki. Now, after that, they won't be able to pray namaz, they won't be able to keep roza, they won't be able to give sadaqah, they won't be able to read Quran. So they see that this is my last chance. If I can give some sadaqah, maybe from the 300,000, I give 100,000 sadaqah, I'll get some sawab in my grave. So for that reason, Shariat has allowed wasiyat, but restricted that to one third. So this is the explanation of why wasiyat is allowed. Hazrat Mufti Ashiq Ilahi Sahab mentions some masail over here. Hazrat mentions one should not delay in drawing up a will. Write your wasiyat nama, will nama, right? We have our Ayyub Bhai sitting there from Lex Solicitors. Go to Lex Solicitors. Maulana Akhtar Taylor Sahib is there. He will write down that wasiyat nama for you. So everything is ready. In Darul Bari, our Mufti Shabir Sahib prepared it, and they've typed it up nicely, all huquq and everything. You can write in there and keep it with the solicitor. When you die, your relatives can go and take that out, and according to that, it can be distributed. This is because of the hadith of Ibn Umar radiallahu anhu in Sahih al-Bukhari. ما حق امرئ مسلم له شيء يوصي فيه يبيت ليلتين إلا ووصيته مكتوبة عنده. It is not right for a person who has some wealth in which he can do some wasiyat, that he spends 2 nights without having his wasiyat ready with him. Don't spend 2 nights without wasiyat, because we don't know what's going to happen. Death could come suddenly, and people are dying suddenly. We've had this person in accident, perfectly healthy, run over by car just yesterday. Tomorrow his janaza. Abdul Rauf Bhai Bichara, he's in a critical state. May Allah give him long life with afiyat and sihat. But who knows what's going to happen when? So it is best to have our wasiyat nama ready with us. This is what this hadith is saying. In fact, one hadith in Ibn Majah states, the person who dies after making his last will and testament and clearing everything will have died on the right path, the sunnah, piety and shahadat, and a state of forgiveness. Subhanallah, so much sawab in there if you have your wasiyat ready. That if your wasiyat is ready, everything is clear, and you die according to that, then you will die on the right path, on the sunnah path, piety, martyrdom, shahadat, and a state of forgiveness. Ibn Majah, page 194, Anwarul Bayan, page 359. So this is why leaving an wasiyat is important. And especially over here, we have a threshold. If your property is under that threshold, then you don't need to pay inheritance tax. But if you go above that, then 40% of inheritance tax is taken away. Now, you need to do something to save that, because if you leave £1 million, then the government will take 400,000 for no reason, and you'll only be left with 600. Your family will, will cry. They're giving away 400,000 for no reason. You paid tax all your life, and now you have to pay your tax after dying as well. So there are ways to protect, and there are people who do these things. Go to the lawyers, find a good way, protect your money, write a wasiyat nama. And one of the ways which I heard from some is to make a trust and make 2-3 trustees and appoint them that these are my properties, and when I die, these 3 people who are my trustees should distribute it according to Islamic rulings, and then the government will not be able to touch it because it's a trust, and the trustees will give it to the inheritors. This is your share, your share, your share. So there are ways of doing things in a proper way, legal way, without doing anything illegal. So even if you don't have too much money, try and keep your wasiyat nama ready, and write it down and keep it with the solicitors. It will make life easy for your inheritors. Now we move on to the next verse. Allah said over here, haqqan ala al-muttaqeen. This is a duty upon muttaqeen. If you have taqwa in you, then make wasiyat. فَمَنْ بَدَّلَهُ بَعْدَمَا سَمِعَهُ فَإِنَّمَا إِثْمُهُ عَلَى الَّذِينَ يُبَدِّلُونَهُ. Sometimes wasiyat is changed. Now, if a person changed the wasiyat after the uh, mayyit passed away, the testator, he had instructed you to write down, only you were there, you were noting things, taking his instructions. But after he died, you changed it. This is tabdili, changing. Or the solicitor changed it, or something happened. Then Allah said, فَإِنَّمَا إِثْمُهُ عَلَى الَّذِينَ يُبَدِّلُونَهُ. The sin will go on those who changed it, not on the testator, the person who made the wasiyah. Other rights over here. Once a person has died leaving his wasiyat and will, it will be incumbent upon the inheritors, appointed executors, judges, or ruler, whichever may be applicable, to fulfill the bequest according to the principles of Sharia. Since the testator has left the world and no longer has any choice in matters, those surviving him who now have jurisdiction over his wealth have to ensure that each one receives their allotted share from the wasiyat, the bequest. No rightful recipient should be deprived. So give everyone. If he had said give so and so, so and so much, so much, so much, so much, then give it out accordingly. And if in this country you are made the wasi, then you have to do exactly according to the guidance which was given by the deceased. Certain beneficiaries, like distant relatives or the poor, may not even know about the share which the deceased had left for them, and will therefore not even be able to claim it because they don't know. So it is only those who control the estate who are able to give or withhold, give more or give less, or even conceal certain facts. Therefore, the responsibility of the distribution rests entirely upon their shoulders. They should keep in mind the hereafter right before their eyes when doing anything. No changes, no alterations should be made to the legacy. Should they make any changes, then they will be sinning and they will be questioned in the hereafter. This warning is said in the verse, whosoever alters it after hearing it, then the sin rests upon their shoulders. Abu Bakr al-Jassas Razi writes in Ahkamul Quran that it is gathered from this verse that if a person dies after having left behind his will and bequest together with sufficient funds to sustain them, then he himself has fulfilled his responsibility. It is now the responsibility of his successors to conclude further matters. Should they be negligent in this regard, the sin will be theirs. Alteration to the original legacy is also considered to be negligence. He further writes that if a person dies without paying the zakat due from him, he will be sinful and considered to be of those who refuse to pay zakat. However, if this person made wasiyah that his zakat should be paid and his executor does not pay it, then the deceased will be absolved of the sin, and the sin will now rest on the shoulders of the executor, since he will be deemed to have changed the bequest. However, if there exists some injustice in the will, for example, all the wealth or more than a third was bequeathed without the consent of the other heirs, then it is compulsory that it be altered accordingly. This is in the next ayat, which Allah said, فَمَنْ خَافَ مِنْ مُوسٍ جَنَفًا أَوْ إِثْمًا فَأَصْلَحَ بَيْنَهُمْ فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. If whoever fears partiality and favoritism or sin from the testator, then he reconciles between them, then there will be no sin upon him. Hazrat writes further, it frequently occurs that the testator, either intentionally or erroneously, displays partiality towards a certain heir or relative when drawing up a will. As a result of this, injustice takes place. If any person learns of this occurrence or of its pending occurrence, then there will be no sin on him should he reconcile and rectify the situation between the testator and the beneficiaries. Sometimes they say that, oh, mara papa hu kahne ke liye tumra huj karwana. Dad said this, that's what we're doing. But that's wrong, bhai. What dad said was wrong. He left everything for our sister, nothing for us. That's not right. He will be sinful if we carry that out. So in that case, even if he wrote in that wasiyatnama, you will have to act according to Sharia and do not be partial and do not be favoritism towards others. In the case where the testator has already left the world, the person who has authority over the estate may alter the will so that it complies with the Sharia. This will also not bring any sin on him, and Allah will forgive such an alteration. This person will not be regarded as whoever alters it. Hazrat mentions, but I'll finish off now in 1 minute. Commentators have described several incidents where the bequest may be unjust. Among these is a situation where distant relatives are made beneficiaries while close relatives are excluded. So close relatives like son and daughter are excluded and is given to distant relatives. That is wrong. Another example is where a grandchild is allotted some wealth even though his father is already going to receive a share upon the pretext that the child is not an heir. This is done so that the father of the particular child receives more than his brother. Other examples are the bequeathing of all or more than 1/3 of the estate. Like sometimes they give all their wealth away. You know, this Gori, she died, she left £1,000,000, and she said all this money should go to my dog and the beach and all their children. Oh, bap, bap, bap. She's got her sons, daughters who need that money, but she's leaving the money for the dog. So this is when there is no guidance, divine guidance, when you do these types of stuff. Even in your relatives, you can't give all your money to one relative. It has to be divided, distributed equally. The person who advises on these unjust cases, thereby rectifying them, will not be sinful in changing the legacy. With the specific intention of depriving their daughters or other heirs, some people during their lifetime transfer all their properties on the names of other heirs, such as their sons. This is also a form of unjust bequest resulting in the person committing a sin. It is not permissible to gift something entirely to one person with the intention of depriving the other heirs, other sons and children. So if you do that in your lifetime as well, this won't be right either. Abu Hurairah radhiyallahu anhu reports, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, a man or woman may live in the obedience of Allah for 60 years, but upon their demise, they hurt someone by their bequest and wasiyat, by being unjust, then Jahannam becomes compulsory for them. After narrating this hadith, Abu Hurairah recited the following verse from Surah An-Nisa after deducing the said bequest or death without harming anyone. And that is supreme triumph, a meaning of the ayat. As Anas reports, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told them, Allah will sever that person's inheritance to Jannah who severs and cuts off any portion of inheritance from the heirs. If you cut off and if you deliberately deprive your relative from their inheritance, Allah will deprive you from your inheritance of Jannah. Therefore, wasiyat is very important, and it should be done in a proper manner, impartially. Even if one of your sons is not obedient or he doesn't do your khidmat, but you should still leave him whatever the Sharia gives him. But you should be equal and fair with all your children and all your heirs. This is the meaning of these verses. I'll just do translation of the verses again before we have the azan. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم كتب عليكم إذا حضر أحدكم الموت إن ترك خيرا الوصية للوالدين والأقربين بالمعروف حقا على المتقين. It has been made incumbent upon you when death approaches one of you to make a wasiyah and will in favor of your parents and close relatives if you leave any wealth behind. This is obligatory upon those who have the fear of Allah. فَمَنْ بَدَّلَهُ بَعْدَ مَا سَمِعَهُ فَإِنَّمَا إِثْمُهُ عَلَى الَّذِينَ يُبَدِّلُونَهُ إِنَّ اللَّهَ سَمِيعٌ عَلِيمٌ. Then whosoever alters it after hearing it, then the sin rests upon those who change it. Verily, Allah is all hearing, all knowing. فَمَنْ خَافَ مِن مُوصٍ جَنَفًا أَوْ إِثْمًا فَأَصْلَحَ بَيْنَهُمْ فَلَا إِثْمَ عَلَيْهِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Whosoever fears any partiality or sin from the testator, then reconciles between them, then upon him rests no sin. Verily, Allah is most forgiving, most merciful. We mentioned that this verse number 180 is mansukh, abrogated by the verse of Surah An-Nisa, wherein Allah said, Yusikumullahu fi awladikum. Allah has given every waris his share. So, learn the masail of inheritance. One hadith says, Ilmul miras, Ilmul faraiz is the first ilm to be taken away from my ummah. In this day and age, you want to find a good mufti who can calculate your estate properly, you will struggle. So ilmul miras is so important, but people don't pay attention to it. In miras matters, they say, oh, we follow the law of the land. Oh, I want equal share. Oh, 50%. Why, a woman's wife's share is 1/8, but I'm going to get 50%. I don't know what Sharia says. By this, you're putting your iman at risk. If you say, I don't believe in what Quran says, what Sharia says, your iman is gone. If Sharia says this is your share, you should be happy with that. And you should be content, understand why Sharia has said this. If Sharia said 1 share for female and 2 shares for the male, there's some reason behind it. Because females get married, they go to their homes, males stay with their parents and look after them. They deserve more. That's why Sharia gave them double. And the female will get her expenses from her husband. And here the male has to spend on his wife and the children who are the grandchildren of the deceased. That's why Sharia gives them double share. So you have to understand there is wisdom behind Allah's commands. Don't make your own things up and disobey Allah's commands. These are some masail of inheritance. We understand that just as life and blood is important, wealth and property is important. This is why after Laysal birran tuwallu wujuhakum, Allah mentioned these 2 ahkam first, the matter of blood and then the matter of money and wealth. Now Allah will move on to other commands of which are connected to ibadat. And in this surah, Allah talks about siyam after this. So next week, we will learn the tafsir, read the tafsir of 183. Kutiba alaykumus siyam, kama kutiba alal ladhina min qablikum, la'allakum tattaqun. Over here, this 6th ruku of Surah Al-Baqarah comes to a close. Wa akhiru da'wana, and alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Wa sallallahu wa sallam ala sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in bi rahmatika ya rabbal alamin.